information out in the community. How do you do that? Anybody? Yeah.
You tell it to the video so I can put it on YouTube to share it with the community.
Okay. So YouTube.
Preach to the choir.
How about anybody else? Talk with family, friends.
Actually, Mary Beth and I got out into the community because I'm doing voter registration as well as early vote, and Mary Beth came along, and so we were like double using the time for both voter registration and move to the minute. Since we were walking in the neighborhoods anyway, knocking on doors, why not?
All right.
Great. Ashley and I went and sat at Colonel's ballpark. I have I think it was their last game on Labor Day. It was the game on Labor Day, and set up a table outside the ballpark as people were going in to get them to sign the petition. And we went down to the farmers market and walked around there and petition.
So when you talk to people, what do you discover?
They're so enthusiastic. Where do I sign?
I find people in general, when you set up a table, people are, I think, more hesitant to, you almost have to get up in people's faces and stick your hand out and shake their hand and say, hi, my name is, and this is what I'm doing, and explain it to them, because people won't necessarily walk up to you.
And what kind of a response do you get to that?
Most of the people that we have talked to, we've gotten a positive response from, haven't we? They've been willing to sign the petition.
I don't know. I don't do it myself, so.
Huh?
I don't walk
up. At the
up.
ballpark they did. The people that actually, walked up and we were able to talk to them.
I sat behind the table.
Huh?
I sat behind the table. I didn't.
I think it's interesting. I think that's interesting that you go there because I see that in a pretty conservative setting. We know about I think conservatives are largely getting the message that that's not such a bad thing. They're going to put their candidate in office.
Yeah.
I thank you for doing that.
Well, go ahead, Clark. Have you been talking to people about it?
At the level of the Democratic Party University Convention, the man was very accepted. But I'm not sure what happened at the state level. Does anybody know? Or the national level?
What was the question? What's the question again?
The state level, the first district platform committee moved to amend had a very strong no opposition support. But I'm not sure if it made it all the way out or not.
Well, it's been in the platform.
Okay.
Not just, it's been in the platform since 2008.
Well, there are a lot of key issues in both parties that did up on the platform for decades.
Right? Yeah.
It never did.
These things are just, they get ignored.
I'd like to come back to the personal one-on-one level. I think what National moved to amend and the folks that I talked to, too, what we've been finding is, in general, people are in favor of it once they understand it. And it's really a nonpartisan issue because amending the Constitution to remove the right of corporate personhood is advantageous to people in both parties, especially small business people, which make up the bulk of the business people in the United States. So I think one of the things we want to think about when we talk to people is, asking them, what kind of effect do corporations have on your life? Anybody here? I kind of made up a list because I was thinking, I was hearing probably people would be here who already had some idea of what we were talking about. So I think it's useful to take it to the next stage. So in order for people to get engaged and move to amend, they need to know, why does it matter to me? So you have to ask the question, how are corporations affecting you personally? Anybody?
Well, how about if you ask somebody, what's your big issue? And then I don't care what the issue is. You can always tie in how corporate person adversely affects the fair debate of the issue that they talk about, they care
That's
about.
another way to approach it. But I want to hear from you all how corporations are affecting your life.
I think it's important to make a distinction between corporations and multinational corporations. Because every small business up and down the street is a corporation.
Large corporations.
Good
Yeah.
point, good point.
And, you know, when you just throw that out, you come off as very anti-business. And, you know, commerce is what's driven the human race since we crawled out of a cave. So,
Only 10,000 years. Only 10,000 years. Human race lasts long.
But the point is, I think we need to make a distinction of what we're talking about. Because if you start talking about being against corporations, you're against every family business up and down Main Street.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
This is something that during Occupy, we had to clarify, we are not against incorporating,
Yeah.
nor are we against that form of business as such.
But if you ask me how a multinational corporation control my life, they control everything about food, everything about energy, everything about transportation, everything about housing, and they control every level of government, from local, state, and federal. So once you get to that level of multinational, then you can see what's really going on.
I think it's important that we define just who the 1% that we're talking about is. The 1%, in my view, are only those filthy rich people that hide behind corporations who are dishonest, greedy, and don't give a damn about anything or anyone but themselves. And those are the people that seem to have taken control.
Well, and that's why I'm making this point. It's really important to make that distinction.
Yeah.
Because once you get to that level of corporation, you're not dealing with a living structure, you're dealing with a thing, a non-thinking, non-feeling, soulless body. And if you're dealing with a Main Street corporation, you're dealing with real people whose hearts beat. The small business people who run small corporations that I know, they will pay their employees for months and go hungry themselves.
I think that when you look at move to amend, we're asking to do two things. One is remove the right of corporate personhood, and I don't care whether that's a small business or a large business. It's the same basic issue. Removing the right of corporate personhood and stating that in a constitutional sense, money is not speech. So I think the argument about how do corporations affect our lives we need to talk about that in terms of, small business which might be incorporated and a large business which might be incorporated. Large businesses have a lot more control over our lives and our political system. And the main issue is, why do we want to remove the right of corporate personhood? Anybody got an answer for that? And I don't care what level you're talking about.
They've taken over our elections.
And our lives. They
Yeah.
have the same rights we do. Actually, they've taken over the democracy. We don't have a democracy. But corporations, mostly the large, big ones, have the same rights as we do. So all corporations need to have that right taken away, and then they need to be overseen by the state. Now, from the small level to the large level. And I agree that the small level corporations are pretty much following what they would be following if the states were regulating them like they should be.
Well,
I'm not disagreeing that small corporations aren't the problem, but the mandate to remove the right of corporate personhood would exist for every corporation, because they would then not have the same rights that people do. And that's the problem.
And I'm telling you that the local family-run or big or local corporation that doesn't have these desires to take over our democracy or manipulate government, those folks, shouldn't be afraid of this, because we're not talking about limiting their rights. We're only talking about limiting the rights of those who want to manipulate government for their own personal gain. Free enterprise requires a level playing field. And what corporate personhood does is it allows the big corporations to tip the level playing field unfairly to their advantage at the expense of all the other smaller corporations. And what it does is create monopolies, because it tips all the rules and regulations and the laws in favor of the big guys. And the little guys can't compete.
So when you talk to people, Mike, you listed all the things most all the things that I had. You can talk to people on many different levels, like what's in your food, food safety, the chemicals that are in our food. Those are a product of these large multinational corporations. They're mostly all multinational now, the ones that have these kind of issues. You know, look at the housing collapse and the mortgage crisis. That has to do with large corporations. The stock market collapse and all the unemployment and all of that, that has to do not with small businesses, which create most of the jobs, but with the large businesses and their financial issues.
I remember when I was riding a combine one fall, my Uncle Matt had a monitor where it said $1,000 of corn was up a cent. And basically it was part of the corporation. The stock corn was up over a cent.
Oh, the food prices.
Yeah, the food prices.
Yeah.
So, looking at all the issues, healthcare issues, right now these businesses are being made by insurance companies. They're large corporations. I mean, all of these issues affect each person, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. Doesn't matter. These are all affecting you. I'm looking at the 1%, looking at the tax issue. We're looking at corporations continuing to get all these kinds of tax reductions, while our public infrastructure and all the things that need to be supported, are like...
And for our fuel too, smoking corporations, and that's been going up since we have fuel for tractors and combines and all that. I mean, what are we going to get when the soybeans are going in these fuel things, or they're going in these fuel tanks? And what are we going to get when we have higher prices of fuel to put in our tractors and combines or sprinklers? What are we going to do with that?
And so, that's a good point. Who decides how crops we grow will be used? Do we have any say in it? Or does the corporation decide? So as you talk to people, it's important to make it relative to their own lives and how they're being affected. Yes, it's a big issue. Politics is a huge issue that corporate control of our politicians, our Congress, and even now the election is a huge issue, and that can seem pretty far away. But there are things that are facing people every day that are corporate issues. And we need to focus on having people make those connections. Because once someone makes those connections, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. What matters is that there are entities up here that have profit as the bottom line. That's it. Profit is the bottom line. The large corporations, especially the large multinational corporations, who are making this